I said we were gonna get into our NFL bets for Thanksgiving, and we are. There's a Thanksgiving college football game going on. Are you interested in this New Mexico versus Utah State game, Brett? I am not at all. It is a game between two winless duds, in my opinion. And although the NFL games aren't really going to be super entertaining, I don't think that one is either.
There will be some college football or basketball, excuse me. So you will have a few options, but I got to be honest with you, Higgins. I think a lot of people are going to be watching this game. New Mexico's a slight favorite at -6.5. I will probably find myself on Utah State at home with the altitude advantage. So I'm not there yet. I do have other bets going on Thursday. So I'll see how I do in the NFL before I place my Utah State bet.
Now, there was supposed to be another game on Thursday in college football as well between Colorado State and Air Force. That game got canceled. However, because of it being the typical Thanksgiving break and everything like that, we have more games on Friday as well. 11 NCAA football games, and a few of these are rather contentious rivalries. Now, you have the game like Oregon versus Oregon State, what used to be called the Civil War game. They now took that away. However, I still love the trophy they play for the platypus. You take a beaver, you take a duck, you throw them together. What do you get? You get a platypus. There you
That
go.
is that is awesome. That's a great trophy.
And then a little bit more east, a little bit closer to you than where I'm at, Brett. Nebraska versus Iowa. Now, this is a bit of a newer tradition since Nebraska has only recently come into the Big Ten, but they're neighboring states, and there's a lot of bad blood there. And I warned people last week about the Nebraska line being too heavy towards the Husker because Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's younger brother, seemed to be the next big thing for the Huskers. I was worried that he beat a no name in Penn State who's a dud this year, and that turned out to be right. Illinois ended up beating Nebraska by the amount that Nebraska was favored by. So what that tells me is Nebraska's issues are bigger than just Adrian Martinez being their quarterback. There's play calling, there's defense, there's other issues. So I am riding with Iowa, who has at least showed me they can win against more than one program. -13.5 should be very interesting. This game's going to be in Iowa on Friday, and it gets cold, it gets windy. It says it's going to be 47 degrees, but you never know when you get out in that Midwest what that wind can do to you.
Yeah, I mean, I like Iowa too. I'm not ready to bet against Luke McCaffrey. 13.5 leaves plenty of room for a backdoor cover, as you're well aware. But
Yes, it
I'm
does.
with you. I'm leaning that way. So I'm staying off of it because I saw you were on it for sure. So that's
Well,
a
thank you.
sign. That's a sign. Hey, let Higgins have that one. It's his Thanksgiving weekend too. He needs a dub. Give him Iowa. He'll stay off Notre Dame, North Carolina for me. North
Before we get
Carolina.
into that game, real quick, one last point I wanted to make about Nebraska, Iowa. They are mirror images of each other against the spread. Nebraska's 1-3, Iowa's 3-1-1.
There you go. That's. I mean, Iowa definitely seems likely there, and it's tough to play at Iowa, the pink locker room and all that. So
Yes, but I agree this Notre Dame North Carolina game should probably be the better game of that Friday. Will probably be the best college football game of that night, if we're being honest. Other than maybe a Iowa State Texas.
yeah, there's a lot of big rivalry games. Stanford Cal's a rivalry game too, and you
Yes.
mentioned the Oregon State. So, but Notre Dame North Carolina in Chapel Hill, North Carolina 5.5 point dogs. I think this is Sam Howell's moment. So go out here, get a big win. Notre Dame, this is a classic letdown spot. You've played really well. You're just ranked two in the college football playoff rankings. Everyone feels great. Now you gotta go travel on the road against probably one of the better QB prospects in the country, not named Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, and It's just a tough game, Higgins. I think it's going to be closer than 5.5 points, to be honest, even if North Carolina doesn't win.
Yes, that should be a very interesting game. The college football playoff rankings were interesting. Kind of vanilla at the top four of what you expected. I'm still a big proponent of Cincinnati. I've said it again, but they're going to have a hard time now that the game against Temple this week got canceled for them, and they had done a really good job of being able to continue playing. So that's a little bit tough for them, but we'll see how that goes. Notre Dame absolutely needs a win, though, if you're making it to the college football playoffs, though. It's going to be four unranked, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think Notre Dame Clemson is what the ACC is dreaming of, and it's what the college football playoff committee set themselves up for.
Well, yes, and actually, you corrected me there. Clemson, they have one loss, so maybe not four undefeateds, but I still say if Cincinnati makes it all the way through that they deserve it over Clemson, but we'll see. On Saturday, there is another team that is going to try to be vying for their spot in that college football playoffs, and Florida has to do to Kentucky what Alabama did to Kentucky last week, and that's embarrassed them. Florida is 25.5 point favorites, and if they are going to win, they need to and win commandingly, they need to do what Bama did last week, and that was a 63-3 blowout. That's why Bama's at the top of the college football playoffs because they run up the score. They don't take their foot off the gas, and Florida needs to do that. You talked about Trask and the Heisman. I don't know if it's as short up for him as it may seem to be with some of these sportsbooks odds that you see. Trask needs to go out there like he's still trying to get into this college football playoffs, which they're on the outside looking in right now. They can do it, but it needs to be with really, really big wins, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Florida, I guess, got it together late against Vanderbilt and were able to put up some points, but it was a struggle there for a while last week. So I'm with you, Higgins. They need to put on a good show and impress some people this week against Kentucky.
I think they're going to do it, though. I am going to take Florida minus 25.5, though. I mean, it's a big spread. It's not quite the full four touchdowns, though, which if it was closer to 28, I'd probably stay away. If it got close to 27, I'm probably out. But 25.5, I'll take that.
Yeah, and you actually mentioned Alabama keeping their foot on the gas. Real quick, Nick Saban tested positive for COVID, so he will miss.
Again.
Well, the first time actually was a false positive, I guess, because he had those three consecutive negative tests in 3 days and
Hmm.
was able to get back on the sidelines. And we all thought, wow, I guess he beat COVID in 3 days. But
But it's still a familiar storyline that we've heard. Yet again, hearing Nick Saban has tested positive for coronavirus. So concerning out of Tuscaloosa.
yeah, definitely concerning. And he'll miss the Iron Bowl. He has to self isolate for 10 days. So, we will see what happens there. But
Now, plenty
we're
of Americans have been Zoom calling into work. Is that something that Saban could do, you
a
think?
robot coach.
Yeah, a robot going up and down the line. And
Yeah.
so instead of the strength and conditioning coach that is in charge of pulling the coach back, there's just a guy running the wire.
I like it. Just the FaceTime robot. I like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, there should be one of those.
But I am on another game, not quite as notable on Saturday, but I am on another game. Coastal Carolina versus Texas State. Now, Coastal Carolina's ranked 20th, Brett. What do you know about this team, though, really? Because they've flown a little under the radar because they're not in a major conference.
I know they're the Chanticleers,
Yes,
and
they are, and good pronunciation of that, too.
I know they're in the Sun Belt. I know that their field is teal, and that's all I need to know.
Okay, well, here's something else that you should know. They're 8-0, and they haven't lost against the spread yet this year.
There you go, the
So
Chanticleers.
they are 17-point favorites against Texas State, who is 2-9 this season. I don't need to know much else. Coastal Carolina, you're going to cover. 17 points, give it to me. They're going to win by 3 full touchdowns. It's going to be a 21-point game.
Chanticleers. I'm just disappointed it won't be on the teal turf. But
I understand that, yeah. That would be cool to see. I'd enjoy that because if I'm going to tune in, I'd like to see the teal turf.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go back to the Big Ten though, a little bit bigger stage than Coastal Carolina. With all due respect, I'm going to the younger Tagovailoa, Talia
He's looked
Tagovailoa,
impressive.
and he's been really good. And Indiana suffered a tough loss last week. I don't think they'll be able to cover this 11 and a half, Higgins. I'm on Maryland here. I think Maryland keeps this at least within a touchdown. The way they've been playing, their offense looks really good. I'm not sure they'll be able to stop Indiana, but I can say it's the same about Indiana stopping Maryland.
Now, they did lose a tough one, but it was against Ohio State. Do you remember what that line was last week? It
No, it
was
was 21.
21.
Yeah, and
They've covered all 5 weeks.
Indiana looked bad for about 3 quarters, and in the fourth quarter they turned it on. And you know what? I think they fought really hard, but I think the magic may have run out. Now you know where the magic hasn't run out, Higgins? Evanston.
the
Evanston, the Big Ten runs through Evanston. The Fighting Reese
big,
Davises.
the fighting Reese Davises. I loved seeing that. That was great. Now, Tua's younger brother, Tua Tagovailoa, he's played in 3 games this season, so interesting to see how much Maryland has actually improved since, because they've covered the last 2 games, and those are the 2 games that he started for. He also came in that Northwestern loss, but it'll be interesting. I like this Indiana team. I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana does cover, but this is a game that I had a hard time picking on. I had a hard time getting a feel for, so I stayed away.
All right. Well, I'm all in on Maryland here at 11 and a half. I like that line. There's some other good games on Saturday. Ohio State, Illinois, Penn State, Michigan, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Colorado, USC. My Northwestern Wildcats. I love Northwestern minus 13 and a half at Michigan State. Not touching that one because I think a lot of people are going to be on Northwestern, and that kind of scares me off. But Pittsburgh, Clemson, also LSU, A&M. None of them really fancy me and my interest, Higgins. I think I'm good with just betting what I've bet so far.
I agree. I'd say the one game that stuck out to me was Penn State, Michigan. Not because I want to bet it, but because if you saw a line that it was a 2.5 point favor either way, you'd expect that that game had Big Ten complications and that this was a showdown between the two big programs having big years. And that's not necessarily the case this year at all.
No, they're definitely that's a close line because they're both at the bottom. That's a
Well,
good
we
point.
may end up finding our way onto some of those other games on Friday or Saturday. If we do, we'll have those posted on our social media. So, like I said earlier, follow us on Twitter at NBBPod, on Instagram at Next Best Bet, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel.